The 2019 budget vote is upon us, and the ballots are jam-packed with information.
We've teamed up with the news team from The Bite to bring you everything you need to know to make an informed decision at the polls.
Our team has been analyzing all of the information and talking to the school officials about the facts at hand.
Stick with us as we break it all down for you here on Wax News.
The budget numbers are in, and now all that's left is your vote.
The Alden community will vote on the 2019-2020 Alden School District budget on Tuesday, May 21st.
Alden administrators have been working hard behind the scenes to combat what was an anticipated lack of funding from New York State and the rising costs of resources.
To explain the content you'll see at the polls, we go over now to Alex and Hannah in the studio.
Recently, Tim Hinskin had an opportunity to interview Mr. Stoltman. He details the highlights of the 2018-2019 school year, a few key points of this year's budget, and why it's so important to cast your vote on May 21st. Tim?
Key points from the 2018-2019 school year that you want to highlight or want to mention to the community.
I think we've had, once again, an absolutely fantastic school year. I know it's only April right now. We've got a couple months left, but the One to the World initiative this year, I think, has taken on a life of its own, and it's been so incredibly successful, I think more than anybody even dreamed. Every one of our students in high school has their own personal device. Every one of our fifth graders this year has their own device, and the manner in which the students and the teachers have embraced it is incredible, and we're really excited to continue that with the 2019-2020 budget as we look to purchase devices for our incoming fifth graders and continue to use the same devices that we did this year with our 9th through 12th graders. So the 12th grade students that graduate, exit our program, their devices will loop down to the incoming freshmen so that once again our entire high school student body will have devices.
What are some key points about the 2019-2020 budget that you either want to highlight or mention or that you feel are very pertinent to the budget of the community?
There's not a whole lot of new things in the 2019-2020 proposed budget. I'm proud to say that Alden remains in the top 3 in more than 39 component school districts when it comes to tax levies when you take a look at it over the course of the last 5 years. We've done a really good job, in my opinion, balancing our budget and presenting a responsible budget to our taxpayers here within the district. One of the things I think I've already mentioned in this is we're really proud to be able to continue our One to the World initiative as it relates to the purchase of devices for our students. The other thing that I'm very proud of during the budget development process is the administrators were able to take a look at a pretty large budget deficit, and they were able to close that gap without significantly impacting any of our programs that we offer our K-12 students. So for the most part, all of our programs that we currently have in the 2018-19 school year will exist again in the 2019-2020 school year.
What is the significance of, I know that tax levy in the beginning was set pretty, higher than usual, so why was it important to lower it to where it is now?
It's a delicate balance of offering programs and classes for our student body while maintaining a, what we believe an economical responsible budget to our community. So we lowered it. We're right now at 2.79%. And as I said, if you take a look over the course of the last 5 years, that's one of the 3 lowest in the Erie 1 and Erie 2 component school districts across the region. So we've always prided ourselves on being able to do that without significantly altering the programs that our student bodies have to participate in.
Why is it important for all the community members to come out on May 21st and vote on the budget?
I don't necessarily believe it's only important for people to come out and vote for school budgets. I believe it's important for people to come out and vote for any type of election that we have. Obviously, we think it's important because it's our local folks voting on the budget that we hope to be able to adopt and operate our school year or school on for the course of another calendar year. But also, we've got two vacancies on our school board, and we would like everyone to come out and participate and vote for school board members that are running for those positions, and they do a fantastic job. It's important to come out and exercise your right to vote.
Is there anything else you would like to add about the budget or the school year in general or what you are excited for coming up?
The only thing that I'd like to comment on is we're really proud of the job our teachers, our instructional staff, our supervisors, our administrators have done to prepare this budget for the community. We believe it's a very responsible budget. Aside from the numbers and the propositions on there, there is a kind of fun and exciting proposition on there as it relates to the naming of our new sports facility. We're asking feedback from the community. There are two options for them to vote on to name our new track and field, and we've never had a name for it. We thought it was important. As the high school students know, we sought their input. The top two choices from the student body have been put on a non-binding referendum for this budget vote, and we hope to have an answer as to what they'd like to see what the field be called for the next 30 years.
Now we are going to transition into a more complicated matter, the New York State budget. Hannah had the chance to dive into some reasons behind the upcoming tax increase. The state budget explains all the funding that will be provided for schools like Alden.
Or in some cases, the lack of funding the state is able to provide to schools like Alden.
Governor Cuomo's proposed state budget for the 2020 year was recently passed. This budget provides New York schools $27.9 billion for the 2019-2020 school year, which is a $1 billion increase from the current 2019 budget. Overall, we've seen a 36% increase in school budget funding since 2012. While that sounds like great news for schools, it's not quite the case for schools like Alden. While there was an increase in aid, that doesn't mean Alden will reap extreme benefits. Governor Cuomo updated some of his requirements for funding which will prioritize lower-income schools.
So this actually does more for poor schools specifically than we have ever done before. The argument up until now is just more money for everyone. But if it's more money for everyone, then you're giving the richer school districts more money also who don't need it, when the priority has always been funding the poorer school districts. Well, then why didn't you say that? Why didn't you say priority for funding poorer schools? Well, because politically that's difficult. Because representatives want to make sure they bring money home to every school. If you believe in funding poorer schools as I do, then say it and do it.
The schools who will be receiving extra funding are classified as Title I schools. For a school to reach the criteria of a Title I school, 40% of the families must be low income and qualify for the free or reduced lunch program. The state aid estimate is broken up into 9 different categories: foundation aid, transportation aid, BOCES aid, public excess cost aid, private excess cost aid, hardware aid, software, library, and textbook aid, building aid, and supplemental public excess cost aid. The total projected state aid has a 1.15% increase over the prior year, which is $159,259, but that increase does not cover the gap when it comes to the operating budget for the district. Going into further detail regarding the distribution of state funding, the district is receiving $160,342 increase of foundation aid. However, higher need districts are receiving more aid based on district poverty rates, district wealth, and general enrollment. We are also seeing an increase in transportation aid and BOCES aid. Another component of the state budget is the revenue budget. The revenue budget breaks down how much money the school will take in during the year. Although we are receiving $159,259 more dollars than last year's budget, this number is not enough to cover the expenses of running the district. While overall we are seeing more funding coming in from state aid, the state has made cuts to certain areas of the district's revenue, such as public excess aid, which generates its funding to BOCES and special education needs, private excess cost aid, which funds go directly to the cost of education, hardware aid, building aid, as well as to software, textbook, and library aid. The state also created a permanent tax cap and rejected the proposal to reduce building aid reimbursements. We budgeted $1.15 million to support mental health services across schools, targeting middle and junior high schools. State lawmakers also heard several propositions related to the education budget. A proposition to require all students under 16 to wear a seatbelt on school buses has been rejected. There was also a proposition pushing for buses to have cameras extended at stops to photograph those illegally passing school buses. That proposal has passed, allotting for state aid to districts for that technology. The state also voted yes to increasing the cap on the BOCES district superintendent's salary, and created a teacher's retirement system reserve fund. Before casting your vote, look at the state budget numbers one more time. Simply put, the cost of resources continues to rise. Yet, there is a deficit in areas of funding for districts like Alden. Now it's up to district administrators to prioritize how their funds will be best utilized. For WAX News, I'm Hannah Whiteford.
To help ensure the safety of our students as they are transported to and from campus each day, the Transportation Department has a system in place to proactively replace a certain number of buses each school year.
This plan is what makes up Proposition number 2 of the school budget vote. To break down what this plan looks like, reporter Dylan Colasanti sat down with the supervisor of transportation, Mrs. Deborah Hoffman, to talk about the impact this will have on the district.
The improvements include the purchase of new buses, 2 large 66-passenger buses, and 3 29-passenger buses. Let's turn it over to Dylan for more information.
Right now we have 53 vehicles. One of them is a service truck and one is an equipment bus, so when you have your concerts.
As you heard, the school's fleet consists of 53 vehicles, and the district's fleet has traveled approximately 555,000 miles since last year. The maximum cost for new buses is $435,000 from approved capital reserve fund. The department recommends an annual replacement for vehicles over 10 years old and in excess of 100,000 miles based on bus replacement schedule. Deborah Huffman explains more to why the district must use the replacement schedule for our buses.
First and foremost, it's safety, because once a bus gets 100,000 miles on it, you start having wear and tear on parts as well as the body. So in a collision, it might not have the integrity of a new bus.
Wear and tear on equipment is a constant challenge for the buildings and grounds crew. In order to operate at the maximum capacity, equipment needs to be updated or replaced periodically.
Hannah Roy and producer Zach Bennett toured the maintenance building with head custodian Mr. McCormick, our new groundskeeper Mr. Scott Peterman, and Superintendent Stoltman to let them explain why the equipment is critical to day-to-day operations.
Proposition 3 of the 2019-2020 budget vote entails the purchase of buildings and grounds equipment. I spoke with Mr. Stolman and other members of the building and grounds team to see what the proposition entails.
We've got a tractor just behind us that is consuming a lot of the money that we're asking to expend. The tractor's almost 15 years old, has a failing clutch system, and we're spending a lot of time repairing that as opposed to a lot of time using it.
Mr. Stolman also stated that it's important to note that the school isn't replacing things just annually. What we're trying to do is get on a rotation that replaces things on a regular basis. This includes the tractors, trucks, plows, and such.
We're not replacing the same thing. Typically, things are anywhere between 15 and 20 years old. Just a few years ago, I believe we replaced a tractor that dated back to like 1971. Proposition 3 does not impact the 2019-2020 budget at all. And when I say that, I mean that it's not increasing the budget for this upcoming school year.
Mr. Stolman explains that this proposition is compared to a savings account by asking the community to save money for all intensive purposes for the capital reserve for the building and grounds equipment. As many of you know, the school is investing in a new synthetic turf football field. Proposition 3 lets us invest in 3 different implements.
So the new synthetic turf equipment that we'll be getting for the field consists of 3 different implements. There's a magnet, there's a brush that we use for routine cleaning, and there will be a deep cleaning brush. The magnet will pull behind a buggy at any time, and that's just to pick up any metal objects that are lessened from student use and whatnot, things like that. And then our routine maintenance brush is just a series of brushes that you also pull behind the buggy. After about 100 hours of play, it's recommended by the manufacturer that you do that, and in order to do that, you brush across the surface and it stands the plastic particles of the turf up. And then a deep cleaning brush is a mechanical brush that runs on its own motor, and it reverses the brushes backwards, so it's actually picking up dust and debris that are on the field that you wouldn't normally see because it's actually getting down into the fiber a little bit.
To get a more in-depth look at the equipment that our schools use, I also talked to Mr. McCormick, the head custodian of Buildings and Grounds, to get more information.
One piece of equipment in front is a top dresser for top dressing our athletic fields as the sports conclude for the season, and then a piece of equipment next to it is a multi-purpose tractor that we use during the winter with the front mounted snowblower, and behind the top dress machine is a 17-foot batwing mower that we attach to the rear of this tractor to cut the grass and so on and so forth. And behind that tractor is some turf tires and stuff that we switch for the seasons, mower decks that we replace, the front mounted snow blowers for doing sidewalks, and behind the tractor, I don't know if you can see the seat evader for putting seed down on the fields, yes, for putting, reseeding the fields and keeping a good program going.
One final thing about Proposition 3 is the Ford F-350 pickup with the plow packaging. After interviewing both Mr. Stoltman and Mr. McCormick, I learned that some of the trucks they plan on replacing are almost 5 years old, and they typically try to replace them every 4 to 6 years. The school places the trucks, along with the plows, up for auction. This allows the school to sell the trucks for the same amount of money that the school uses for purchases of the new trucks, with the plows included.
As we said at the top of the broadcast, you can expect to see significant changes as Vision 2020 officially rolls out starting in May. While there is no monetary connection between this year's budget and Vision 2020, the district's administrative team thought that it was important to incorporate the voice of the students, as well as the community, with the naming of our new athletic facility.
Proposition number 4 will be the naming of the new athletic complex coming this summer. Sharing new sketches and more information about the naming process, Alex Zepka and our associate producer, Luke Drew, interviewed co-athletic director, Mr. Bartel, and have a lot of information to share on that.
As Vision 2020 is approaching here at Alden Central Schools, there will be many new additions to the school. Most notably, the new sports complex that brings a new turf field, a new track, and a new addition to the school with a larger pool area. This is the current entrance to the sports complex as of now. As you can see, there is only one path that is entering the high school gym. In this Vision 2020 sketch, there will be an archway leading to many different new sports complex entrances. This is currently the back view of the weight room and current swimming pool. When construction is finished, however, there will be an addition on the back of the weight room that will add restrooms easily accessible from the new pool. The current pool is laid horizontally in perspective to the stands and is lacking a diving board. In this Vision 2020 sketch of the new pool, has the pool extended so that the pool can be laid vertically in perspective to the stands and will incorporate 2 diving boards and a larger stand section that holds up to 500 people. This allows Alden to be able to host ECIC and sectional tournaments in the future. Finally, the biggest renovation for this summer is the new turf field. Here is the current football field. The grass field and red track will be torn up in early May and replaced with this blue turf field with a red track. This field will model that of Boise State and will allow the football team as well as the boys and girls soccer teams to practice and play games on the new field. I got the chance to speak with Athletic Director Mr. Bartel and ask him the importance of voting on the sports complex name and how the design will tie all the facilities together.
Well, the field here is really, it's supposed to be a point of pride for the community, and it really belongs to everybody, from the community sports that will come here and use it to the varsity, JV, modified sports teams, and particularly with the type of field it's going to be, with the blue field is really going to set it apart from a lot of others. We hope it's a point of pride for the whole community. The design will bring together, of course, our football field where it's always been, along with our track. Those have always been there. But what it's going to allow us to do is also push our soccer program there. And the soccer program, of course, at the town level, in the recreation program, all the way up through our JV through varsity levels, has really blown up in size, and it gives a chance for those soccer athletes to also be on that field much more regularly. We've been doing the senior night games on the field for the past couple years, and those are always a big success for the parents to come out and see that. So it ties that together. It also gives us the chance to get sports practices out there in the spring. Right now in this season, when it's so muddy and rainy, we'll allow our baseball and softball teams, our track team, to be able to get out there in the field a little bit earlier in the year and really start practicing before the ground has firmed up and everything. With thought towards that several years ago, they actually put the new lights in, and they backed those up a little bit from the field enough to allow for a new field if and when we got the approval to do so. So the new lights have already made an impact on that. Once you get the field in there, it's going to allow, the bleachers are going to remain the same, but it will allow, again, for a lot more of those sports events to be on the field. So there's better seating for soccer. So as opposed to being at field level, you're now going to be elevated to be able to see the game better. The soccer will now have a running clock on the field, as opposed to they haven't at our primary school or our high school or the town park fields where we've been. They're also directly accessible to the new concession stand that can be opened by different clubs and organizations during the games, the new restrooms. So all of this is now being tied together in one facility to be able to use that. For the track and field team, it allows us to host big meets. It's much more spectator friendly in the sense that you've got all your jumping areas put together, as well as the throwing areas are much more put together on the one end of the field. and we're hoping that's just a better experience for spectators, in addition to not only the athletes and the coaches and the people involved with the game.
Reminder to those voting that this Vision 2020 project was already voted on and does not affect anything with the taxes and current budget. Come out to vote on the naming of the athletic complex on May 21st. From Wax News, I'm Alex Upton.
Certainly keep an eye out for all of these new changes, which will be taking shape soon. Be sure to stay up to date with the latest on Vision 2020 by following the news at wacs.aldenschools.org or by following us on Facebook and Twitter by searching WACS News.
Remember, voting takes place on May 21st and it is incredibly important that you make it to the polls and be sure your voice is heard. A major consideration for the operating budget is necessary building and grounds projects. To keep our school functioning at full capacity, we met with intermediate school principal Mr. John Mikulski to discuss the impact of these projects have in not only his building but across the district.
The projects vary from adding security cameras to updating older classrooms. These impacts will be visible throughout the district. Here's Ashton Wilson with more.
The 2019 budget vote is right around the corner. With the vote being on May 21st, there is very little time to decide and cast your vote. With there being many changes in all different aspects of all the schools in the district, there are many changes being done to the buildings and grounds section of the budget vote. I traveled over to the intermediate school and spoke with the intermediate school principal, Mr. Mikulski, to see what changes are being done to not only his building, but the importance of adding more security cameras district-wide, the importance of modernizing classrooms and making each school appealing and safe for the students.
Part of the Buildings and Grounds project for last school year was to update the existing shades for the front of the 1951 building, the side of the building that's facing Crittenden. So that work was done last year. Part of the project for this year is to continue that work down the front of Crittenden, extending into the 1936 wing of the intermediate school. Those shades will be replaced with the same thing that we have in these buildings now. So One to the World has most impacted the 5th grade students at Alden Intermediate School because they all received one-to-one devices this year, and along with that we needed some storage solutions for their devices for those students who weren't taking them home at night. So we did install 2 banks of storage lockers similar to what exists at the high school. The challenge was finding a good place to put that in the intermediate school. Originally, Buildings and Grounds wanted to put it in the hallways. However, we realized that that wouldn't work very well with safety and building codes. So as a temporary solution this year, we have them installed in a storage area on the 2nd floor of the building, so it's accessible to 5th graders, yet out of the way of the hallways. The long-term plan will be, as we continue with the Visions 2020 project, to have these moved back into the hallway. When they go to do the renovations in the hallway, they'll create a bay for them to insert into. That way they're seamlessly designed in the space. So one of the most important Buildings and Grounds projects that are planned for the summer is going to be the installation of new security cameras. This is really important because of the need for them from a security standpoint. Currently, we only have a handful of cameras, and they're primarily focused at those major entry and exit points of the building. Having additional cameras positioned in strategic places in the hallway is going to really help us maintain the safety, and if there is something that happens in the building, to be able to pull that up quickly and see what the case was. It's also really helpful with the addition of Deputy Peel in the building in the district this past year. She will have access to that as well from a district perspective, so that she can see really what's happening in all the buildings at any given time.
Also, we took the interview outside so he could show me the changes being done to the outside of the building. This includes the painting of the window frames on the 1936 building.
Another project that the Buildings and Grounds began last summer that will continue as part of this budget is repainting the front and side of the intermediate school. We're updating the panels and the trim work around all of the windows. A lot of them have not been painted in a very long time. Some of them are starting to show some rust. So just to really maintain the building and improve the overall appearance of it from the street, they're going to be painting all of that as part of the summer work.
At the primary school, they're doing similar things to all the other districts, such as adding security cameras, painting and modernizing the look of the classrooms, and installing access controls to the exterior doors similar to those at other schools in the district. The additions they are adding to the primary school specifically include painting and powder coating the boys' lavatory, adding additional seating to the playground, fixing the drinking fountain outside by the playground, and installing additional ceiling fans in the cafeteria. These changes just improve the look of the building and make it look more modern overall. Additions to the high school are also a very important aspect of the budget. Some of these things include the changes being made to the library. These changes include moving the circulation desk and placing it in a different location that is more beneficial and convenient for the people who go in and out of the library every day. Also, the high school will take a small step from the past by replacing all chalkboards with new and improved whiteboards. Some of the Wonder the World initiatives being added to the high school is electrical work to retrofit stationary tables in the DLL. These include power and USB ports. It also will be moving and rewiring the circulation desk. Also, just like all of the other schools district-wide, the high school is adding more security cameras for the school. As said by Mr. Mikulski, the security cameras being added to all districts improves the overall safety of students and can also help administrators figure out if there was ever a problem. Make sure to take the time May 21st to come out to Alden High School's cafeteria and place your vote.
Since 1914, Alden Intermediate has stood proudly at the corner of Park Street and Crittenden. In order to preserve this building and its history, updates and renovations are required.
The Capital Outlay Project is designed to update more big-ticket items gradually each year. This year, the Capital Outlay funding will focus on safety at the intermediate school. Updates will include new fire-rated walls and doors that comply with safety regulations. Our team coverage continues with Justin Evoy and Josh Quanders.
While covering the budget this year, I had the pleasure of doing the Capital Outlay Project. The Capital Outlay Project will bring many changes to the intermediate school. I had a chance to sit down with Mr. Mikulski to see what he had to think about these changes. The capital outlay portion of the budget mainly consists of the demolition of interior walls, ceilings, and doors at the intermediate school north entrance. To find out more, we talked to Mr. Mikulski at the intermediate school.
The capital outlay work will be done primarily in the 1951 building of the intermediate school, which is the building that runs parallel to Crittenden Road. Specifically, it will take place in the stairwell that is located closest to the playground. Both the upstairs and downstairs of the stairwell currently have a wall as well as doors and windows that were original to the building from 1951. When they were installed, they were fine, but now as building codes have changed, this no longer meets code. And the reason being that the wall separates the landing of the stairwell from the hallway.
As Mr. Mikulski said, they are completely redoing the doors on the closest side to the playground. On the first floor, they must move the door back about 5 to 6 feet to fit within the state's new safety codes. These doors are not within the code because they are the same doors that have been in the building since it was first built. The only reason that they weren't forced to update them earlier is because the building was still as it was when it was first built. The reason they chose to do this year was because they had to prepare for next year's Vision 2020 project, in which they would have to update the doors to code anyways. One of the reasons they need to be updated is because they are not ADA compatible. This means that the stairs over there are not able to be used by a handicapped person. The other big purpose behind updating the entrance is because they need to add an area of refuge. An area of refuge is a location in a building designed to hold occupants during a fire or other emergency, when evacuation may not be safe or possible. The overall cost of this project will be $100,000, although the school will be getting a rebate of around 78% or about $78,000.
So the plan is going to be to replace these with updated fire-rated doors as well as hardware. And while we're doing this work, we're also going to take care of new ceilings and new lighting in the stairwells as well. This work does two things. It continues some of the work that was done originally to the building in the fall of 2016 with updates to new exterior windows to the outside of the building on this side of the 1951 building. And it's also preparing the building for work that's going to be done as part of Phase 3 of the Visions 2020 project, which will include new tile work in the hallways as well as new lighting and ceilings as well. The plan is for this work to start in the summer as soon as it's approved by the state. The summer is a good time to do this kind of work because it least impacts students and teachers, and then it will be ready for the start of the school year in September.
Thank you. I'm Justin Evoy reporting for Wax News.
Buildings and Grounds isn't the only department in need of equipment to function at a high level. Each year, Alden teachers and departments are tasked with assessing the materials that they have access to in order to continue providing enriching academic opportunities for students.
Tad Leckie and Felix Luna broke down these requests and the processes behind their funding.
Requests have a large impact on students' lives here at our school. The process for submitting equipment requests is the process where supervisors, principals, and other administrators put together a list of items that they need to run their program or department.
They submit them to Mr. Karpick and myself. We then present them to the Board of Education for their consideration as we work through the budget process. As of this date, some of the requests that have direct impact on student learning are the babies that we use in the health class, the robotic babies that students take home. I know they're very popular. They take home as part of the unit of study with Mr. Casillo in high school health.
The equipment requests are submitted to benefit students in the classroom or make a more comfortable working situation.
Items that are currently on our list for potential equipment purchases for next year, if the budget is approved, are some benches, an ice machine for the concession stand, some AEDs that are a concern for us as far as health and safety. We try to get on a rotating basis and replace a few AEDs every single year. The other area that we have some significant requests for equipment is the buildings and grounds, especially within our buildings, to make sure that we can keep our buildings clean and safe. There are some carpet fans, some dry and wet vacuums that we're looking to purchase. Again, just to keep things up to date. Some of that equipment is currently failing. We want to make sure that we keep things in working order. In the event that any reductions need to be made to the budget, whether it's an equipment line, a supply and material line, we handle that once again by working through our building level administrators and our supervisors. Our supervisors would be our athletic directors, our buildings and grounds folks, the technology coordinator. We really look to those people for direction. Mr. Karpick and I and the Board of Education don't sit down and go through item by item and say, this is an item that we think you should take a look at reducing. We put that back in the hands of the people that are working day to day with students and with programs to make those reductions. And they typically will come back and say they've prioritized and they've taken a look at things and analyzed the request and make alternative arrangements, whether it's completely eliminating a request, whether it's reducing a request, or simply putting a request off maybe till the subsequent school year.
Economics are economics. As a general trend, resources and services increase in cost. In order to operate ultimately, at times, increases are required. The 2019-2020 budget is not exempt from such increases.
Proposition 1 is broken down by Katie Fisher, explaining how the authorization to adopt
With the
the budget works.
2019 budget occurring, the Alden Board of Education has been giving their all to satisfy both the community and the district. As of March 7th, 2019, the total revenue and fund balance was at $34,746,401. This includes a 3.79% tax levy increase, which the board was aware that the community would not be pleased with. In order to have more Alden residents voting for the budget to get it to pass, the board lowered the tax levy to 3.23% increase on March 21st, 2019. However, the board still felt that this is too high of an increase compared to last year. In the past 4 years, the tax levy has increased by 2.29%. Despite the concern with the increase, Alden has actually had the third lowest tax levy increase from the 37 component districts in Erie 1 and 2 BOCES in the past 5 years. The Alden Board of Education states that they do not feel comfortable with the tax levy increase being over 3%. With the original increase at 3.79%, the board must now decide what investments to cut out. Since the state budget has passed, Mr. Paul Karpick, Alden Central Schools Business Administrator, has stated that this year's 2019-2020 tax levy increase will be at 2.79%, and the total revenue is set at $34,639,105. With the expected upcoming projects throughout the district, both the community and the district are relying on this tax increase. Hope to see you on May 21st to vote for the budget. I'm Katie Fitcher reporting for Wax News.
Now, we've thrown a lot of numbers at you and it can be tough to process.
To help sort out all of the numbers and figures, Tim is going to break down all of the information a little bit more for us.
The operating budget for the 2018-2019 school year was $33,972,380. This year, the proposed budget has increased by 1.96%, coming in at $34,639,105. The good news is the proposed tax levy is lower than the originally proposed tax levy, which was set at 3.23%. The new proposed tax levy is 2.79%. When it comes to the preliminary expenditure budget, that's the general things the district needs to spend money on, seen here. There has been an increase of 1.96% between the 2018-2019 and the 2019-2020 budget. More specifically, the 2019-2020 budget is $666,725 more than the 2018-2019 budget. For the 2019-2020 budget, with a tax levy increase to 2.79%, residents within the Alden Central School District whose house's value is $100,000 should expect an increase in their taxes of roughly $31.35 for the year. A house valued at $150,000 should expect an increase in their taxes of roughly $53.75. And houses valued at $200,000 should be looking at an increase of roughly $76.15. Adjustments to the 2019-2020 budget include savings from teachers' retirement, staffing due to enrollment, furniture for the library to accommodate the One to World initiative, and the reduction of pool hours due to construction. If you look at the preliminary expenditure budget as of February 7, 2019, it shows the adjustment to the budget that involves saving money or spending money. Values that have parentheses on each end are amounts that the district is saving from various aspects, such as teacher retirements, saving the budget $58,369, or staff adjustments, saving the school $80,874. Adjustments without parentheses are amounts that are being added to spend on the budget, such as unemployment costs, adding $46,800 to the budget, and health services, adding $13,271. In total, after all adjustments are combined, there is a total savings of $183,504. These savings allow the district to set the tax levy lower than it would be without these adjustments. The revised budget as of April 4, 2019 is set at $34,639,105. You can see that the Alden administrative team has made further reductions to close the gap from the original $34,663,010. The following chart shows where the district receives funds from in order to cover the expenses detailed in the budgets. The combination of state aid, county sales tax, various local and federal sources, fund balances, reserves, and property taxes have contributed $666,725 more than the 2018-2019 budget. Also, there was an unexpected increase in state aid this year. With this increase, the state aid provided to Alden Central School District has increased by $159,259, a total of 1.15%, setting the new state aid funds to $13,998,761. In addition to this increase of revenue, the district is saving money in categories such as software, library, textbook aid, and building aid. And those are the major numbers and figures broken down for the 2019-2020 proposed budget.
Thanks, Tim. That really was helpful.
The ballot you see will be broken down into 4 propositions: operating costs, buses, buildings and grounds equipment, and the naming of the new sports complex.
The 2019-2020 budget vote will take place on May 21st from 6 a.m. until 9 p.m. in the high school cafeteria.
We encourage all members of the Alden community who are 18 years or older to make it out to the Alden Senior High School cafeteria to cast your vote on the school budget.
We hope that throughout this broadcast, we help describe what the 2019-2020 budget contains and what you can expect come May 21st.
Thank you for joining us on this special budget coverage episode of WAX News, and we hope you will join us next time here on WAX News.
To stay up to date with the latest news, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Snapchat by searching WACS and visit our website at wacs.aldenschools.org.